Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening to everybody, wherever they are. I see from our participants box that we have a lot of participants and from all over the world. We would encourage you to introduce yourselves in the chat box that you'll find obviously at the bottom of the screen. Just say your name and the organization you work for. My name is Jonathan Walters. I'm the moderator of this webinar, and our topic today is about repurposing coal-fired power plants into renewable energy plants, illustrated by the case of Chile. We have a wonderful panel of speakers to talk to us. Let me just mention their names and where they're from. We have Rainer Schröer, who is the Director of Renewable Energy and Energy Efficiency at GIZ, the German Technical Cooperation Agency. We have Juan Carlos Olmedo, who is the Chairman of the Board of the Power System Operator of Chile. We have Michael Geier, the Senior Advisor at DLR, which is the German Space Research Institute. We have Abhishek Bhaskar, who's a Senior Energy Specialist at the Climate Investment Funds, which is a climate fund managed by the World Bank. And we have Fernando Cubillos, who is the Head of Energy and a Principal Investment Officer at the Inter-American Development Bank. This is a subject, repurposing coal-fired power plants, that is of very considerable interest, growing interest at this time, partly because of what's happening with climate change dynamics, and partly simply because of the declining economics of using coal to generate power. So we're going to hear about technologies that help in the conversion of coal-fired power plants to something cleaner. And we're going to talk about policies to help accelerate those conversions and accelerate that transition away from coal. And we're going to talk about ways of financing that transition, which I'm sure will be of interest to many people. And at the end of the 5 presentations by the panelists, we will have time for questions and answers. So please take a look at the Q&A box next to the chat box at the bottom of the screen. And as soon as you have a question that you would like to pose to the panelists, please put it in the Q&A box. And when we come to the Q&A section of this webinar, we'll go through some of the questions and answers. I'm sure we won't have time for everybody's question, but we'll have time for as many as possible. So at this point, let me ask Rainer to talk to us, to give us his presentation and make his remarks. Rainer, please go ahead.
Hello, good afternoon, everybody. I'll get the presentation. Can you see it?
Yes, we can see it. It's not quite in presentation mode, but we can see it.
Yeah, wait, I have to switch the. Yeah. Now it should work. It works. It works now.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's fine. Please go ahead.
Is it fine? Okay. Excuse me. My name is Rainer Schröer, and I'm working here for the German Agency for International Cooperation. I'm based in Chile since 2014, and I'm responsible for the coordination of several energy projects which we are implementing on behalf of the German Ministry of Environment, and since 2019 in the framework of the German-Chilean Energy Partnership, also for the German Ministry of Energy and Economy. Our principal partner in Chile is the Ministry of Energy, but we are also cooperating with other Chilean institutions and of course the private sector, which is very important here in Chile. Our objective is to assist the Chilean government in the energy transition and the envisioned decarbonization of the energy matrix. Our main activities are promotion of renewable energies, small, medium, and large-scale cogeneration, carbon market development, energy efficiency in mining sector. Since 2014, we are already in the development of hydrogen economy in Chile, and we are in activities of the water and energy nexus, and we are also working in the coal phase out. In the link about you can find some more information regarding our activities and results. On the topic of coal phase out in Chile, we have worked so far on, in general, the promotion of renewables. We analyzed the possibility for flexibilization of the operation of the power plants. We did a lifetime assessment of the power plants. We participated in the Chilean Coal Commission 2018 to 2019. We analyzed the potential of reconverting power plants together with a local company, Inudu. We did pre-feasibility studies on several power plants together with our technical advisor, DLR, and the companies IS, Geier, and ENGIE. We analyzed alternatives for financing reconversion of power plants in Chile because of the restrictions of the ODA restrictions in Chile. We are also insisting in questions of just transition in the context of shutting down the first coal power plants in Chile. The actual situation in Chile, we have 23 coal-fired power plants in operation by this year, with an installed capacity of roughly 5 gigawatt, and they are responsible for 35% of the electricity production in 2020. In the north, we have a lot of PPAs with the mining sector, which they need 24 hours and 7 days a week, very secure energy supply. Here in Chile, they're firing 100% imported coal. There's no local coal fired in this moment, and the coal plants are responsible for 22 million, more than 22 million tons of CO2 emissions in 2020. Jobs in the coal-fired power plants at this moment, about 100 to 150 direct and 200 to 300 indirect jobs. A special characteristic of the Chilean coal-fired generation park is the relatively young age of the units. More than 60% of the plants are less than 10 years in operation. An analysis which we conducted in 2017 shows that significant investments for maintenance, for overhauling, are expected for most of the plants only after the year 2030. The expected lifetime of most of the plants is beyond 2040. It's a challenge for an early phase out of coal. Nevertheless, in 2018, it was agreed between the Ministry of Energy and the 4 coal plant operators to engage in a gradual phase out of coal on a voluntary base. A coal commission was installed where I also was a member. And for 1 year, we discussed important topics like international experiences with coal phase out, environmental issues, health aspects, impacts on the electric power system, impacts on the electricity prices, future electricity prices if you shut down the plants, the social and economic impacts, and also, of course, the alternatives for reconverting the power plants. In January 2019, it was decided to go on with the voluntary and gradual phase out until 2040. In the first phase, 10 units will be shut down until 2024, and 5 already are left the operation, and another one will follow earlier this year, anticipated already in 2021. Why reconversion of coal-fired power plants is an attractive option in Chile? We are talking about relatively new plants in Chile. We have important infrastructure installed, which can be still utilized. Jobs on the plant sites can be maintained. Decommissioning of power plants is complex and very costly. And the power plants are located in neurological points of the Chilean power system. We will learn about a bit more about it later on from Juan Carlos. Which alternatives for reconversion we are considered or are considered? Conversion to gas-fired power plants, conversion to biomass plants if you have biomass, conversion to waste incineration if you have waste, conversion to gas-fired power plants. In the case of Chile, if you're talking about gas-fired, it's LPG. Gas firing together with green hydrogen is also an option. The use of the land and the structure of industrial development is possible. Use the port infrastructure is possible. To use the sites for install seawater desalination plants is possible, and to use convert it to green hydrogen production plants is also possible. Also is possible, and this is what we are talking about it later. Convert it in thermal energy storage. There we analyzed two alternatives. One with hot rock, volcanic stones, and the other with molten salt storage. And after analyzing the options, we concluded that a thermal storage charged by fluctuating renewable energies with molten salt would be a very, very interesting solution for sure. We started together with our technical advisor, DLR, the Minister of Energy, the National System Operator, and the companies IS, Geier, and ENGIE to work on pre-feasibility analysis and conceptual studies for several power plants in Chile. Juan Carlos from the Chilean System Operator and Michael from DLR will tell you in the following presentations about our findings. To come to the end, I would like to introduce two links. One link will give you an overview about the important aspects of the Chilean energy transition. And the second link will give you an idea about an animation film about the recovering of coal plants in Chile. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much, Rainer, for that overview of the situation in Chile. I'm sure many of the participants from other countries were mentally going through a comparison between the situation in Chile and the situation in their own country. So I see we have participants from really all over the world, if you look in the participants box. Next, we'll go to Juan Carlos. And if you already have questions that you want to put in the Q&A box, it's there and it can start accumulating questions. So please put your questions in there. Juan Carlos, please go ahead.
Thank you. I'm Juan Carlos Olmedo. I'm chairman of the board of the Chilean ISO, Coordinador Eléctrico Nacional. Well, Chile has a lot of renewable resources potential to develop the new energy, mainly wind, solar, and hydro. And currently, the renewable energy generation market is being very active. For 2021, we have under construction roughly 6,800 megawatts in renewable resources. Then that means we are trying to start a fast decarbonization of the generation matrix. Well, what is the commitment regarding decarbonization? By the end of 2019, we had roughly 5,500 megawatts in coal-fired units in our fleet. And the contribution to energy supply by the end of 2020 was roughly 35%. That means it is an important part of the energy supply. And since 2009, and December 2020, we have decommissioned roughly 580 megawatts of the coal-fired fleet. And the first stage of the coal decommissioning schedule agree among the authority, the government, the Ministry of Energy, and the companies has a target of decommission 30% of all fleet by the end of 2025. But the country wants to accelerate the decarbonization process, and that's the reason why there is a law initiative promoted by Congress to accelerate this process by 2025. This means that we are very creative to develop alternatives to try to reach that target. Well, what's happening? The investment in renewable generation and transmission line are necessary to mitigate the decommissioning of coal-fired plants and the transport of renewable generation. Most of the demand is concentrated in the central part of the country, and the renewable resources are in the extreme part of the country. Then we need transmission facility. And this means that we need more than $20 billion of additional investment for the period 2020-2040. And this means many project development that will need equity permits and financing. That means a good opportunity to invest in our country. And also, due pandemics, we're talking about the sustainable recovery that is leveraged by the transition of the power system in order to improve the network, upgrading, and develop new transmission facilities. And the power system, due to the high penetration of new renewable energy resources, especially those variables, needs minimum levels of inertia, short circuit capacity, reactive power support, and ramp management, in the morning and in the evening. That means we have many alternatives. One of them is asset recycling of conventional synchronous generation power stations, additional power storage capacity. We can mention some alternative as CSP, CIS, hydro reservoirs, geothermal, pumped hydro, electric batteries, hydrogen, and PTX, and also some emerging technologies such as grid-forming inverters. Anyway, asset recycling of existing coal-fired power stations into thermal storage plants are an interesting alternative, and this technology will replace primary energy source coal by renewable energy generation stored in tanks of molten salts. This is very because it's a fast way to decommission or the use of coal and moving to use renewable energy without causing a relevant impact in the system. We have developed some exercises or simulation of what is the evolution of the power system by 2040, reconverting coal-fired plants to Carnot batteries. In the left side, we have a graph of what is the capacity of the system to connect to the grid new renewable generation capacity with Carnot batteries, and to the right, with no Carnot batteries. And you can see that as we develop this asset recycling, we will be able to connect 6,000 megawatts in addition of renewable generation capacity. That's a good and very big contribution of this technology. And here you have a more aggressive theoretical scenario because needs many considerations. We assume here that we decommission all coal-fired plants by 2025, and we convert them to Carnot batteries. And you can see in the right side of the presentation how the power plants that are installed the Carnot battery, charge the power stations and discharge. Then charge the thermal battery during the day and discharge during the night. And in the left side, you can see the large amount of solar PV that the system may accept. And also it's important to consider the generation based on natural gas on the red curve. It is important to mention that natural gas is a transition fuel in the decarbonization process of our matrix. And as a conclusion, energy transition needs a focus on reliability and quality of service of power system. This is for every power system, not only for Chile. Accelerating the decarbonization process requires smart and cost-effective solutions. Asset recycling appears as an attractive solution to accelerate the decarbonization. Efficient levels of coal-fired plants conversion are between 30% to 70% of existing installed capacity. This is based on a study that we have developed in the coordinator. Feasible coal plant conversion in short term, I mean in the next 5 years, is around 1,600 megawatts. Also, there exists a high complementarity between Carnot batteries and solar PV technology. I have to point out at present, there is some curtailment of solar PV or wind due to the lack of transmission capacity. Then this is a solution to use that energy and reduce curtailment. Also, this technology may reduce the needs of new transmission capacity. And Carnot batteries are an alternative to provide inertia, short circuit capacity, reserve, even ramp management. And it is very important to mention that this asset recycling means a minimum environmental impact. Even we can talk about positive effects due to the reduction of emission, not only CO2, even particulate matter, SOx, and NOx. Also, this allows to accelerate the decarbonization of the generation matrix in Chile. And finally, it's important to mention that we need an innovative financing resources for these asset recycling projects. Then the bank has an important role in promoting this kind of technology. Thank you very much.
Great. Thank you very much, Juan Carlos. I mean, thank you very much for giving us a lot of information in a very short space of time, a lot of information about the investment needs and investment opportunities for decarbonization and for repurposing the coal-fired power plants in Chile, and for the very interesting emphasis on asset recycling. Reusing part of the existing assets and the economic and financing and environmental implications that has. In a moment, we'll turn to Michael Geier, who will talk in some detail about technologies for repurposing coal-fired power plants using the case of Chile. I'm seeing a few questions coming into the Q&A box at the bottom of the screen, and would very much encourage more questions to come in at this stage. We'll come to answering the questions after everybody has spoken, but it would be great to see more questions coming in. And I promise to give preference to the questions that come in early, just to encourage you. Let me pass now to Michael Geier.
Yes, thank you, Jonathan. Thank you, Juan Carlos, and thank you, Rainer. Myself, I'm Michael Geier. I'm Senior Advisor at the German Aerospace Agency, DLR. And I have, well, basically dedicated my last 20 years of professional life to the development of molten salt storage in solar thermal plants. And indeed, with the Andasol 1 plant, I think I have put the first molten salt storage plant into commercial scale operation of the world here in Spain. And since then, I think many things have happened. The first thing is molten salt storage got about 20 gigawatt hours commercially installed worldwide, the largest now being installed in Dubai, 700 megawatts, 12 hours. The second thing is, I think that renewables, PV and wind, they just fall in prices so sharply that today it makes sense, let's say, to use or to heat this molten salt storage not only with concentrating mirrors, but also with wind or with PV electricity. And the third thing is that we are at the beginning of the coal exit. And next slide, please, Valeria. And at the coal exit, and here we have taken the example of Chile because we have been invited by the GIZ from Reiner to work together with the coordinador, AES, Geier, ENGIE, and the Chilean ministry to look into, let's say, possibilities of giving coal plants a second decarbonized life. And what I had learned in the solar thermal plant is a solar thermal plant basically uses heat, and then it has a steam cycle, and it reconverts the heat in the steam cycle to electricity. And here in Chile, as Carlos and Rainer had explained, we find many very young coal plants. Indeed, the recent one was just inaugurated in 2019, which still have a long life in front, which have excellent turbines. And as you see in these sites, which have space for retrofitting some kind of storage. And so we analyzed here, in the case of Chile, the possibility of substituting the coal boiler by a molten salt storage system, which would be electrically charged by renewable variable electricity from wind and from PV here in the northern Chile. Next slide. So here you see the scheme that basically we have done. We substitute here the thermal boiler in the example of a 250 megawatt Chilean coal plant. And we added here a known and mature storage system, like you see here in the background picture, that is from the North 3, that is a 150 megawatt, 7.5 hour storage system. You see the tanks behind is some 40 meter diameter, some 18 meters high. And there you store the molten salt, that is a mixture of sodium and calcium nitrate at 300 degrees centigrade cold and at some 565 degrees centigrade hot. And you heat this salt by pumping it through an electric resistance heater from the 300 degree to the 565. And so you can here do the power to heat. And then you use the existing infrastructure, the existing steam cycle, the existing generator, the existing grid stations for reconverting this heat to power. Now, we did a sensitivity analysis ranging from a discharge duration of some 5 hours to some 12 hours. And then, the storage capacity goes from 3 gigawatt hours to some 9 gigawatt hours. And so next slide, please. We did here. So that is how the system would look like. We also have studied this together with our colleagues from RWE for retrofitting a German lignite coal plant. With molten salt storage, you see here on the right hand side the existing old power plant, and on the left hand side you see the addition, which are the cold and the hot salt tanks, the electrical heater, and the molten salt steam generator. All this is basically existing mature technology. The only, let's say, innovative thing here is the integration of such a system in an existing coal plant. Next slide. So what you have to add to your coal plant, you see it here. Here it is electric heaters for charging the molten salt by PV or by wind power. Then you have to add the molten salt tanks, and you have to add then the steam generators, which are fired with the molten salt. Now, to give you an idea on the lifetime, for example, now the most recent plant, these 700 megawatts that are currently being built with 12 hours of storage, the 700 megawatts of CSP plant with then the 12-hour molten salt tanks. These are designed for a lifetime of 35 years. So that is, let's say, a long and sustainable investment. And at the end of the lifetime, the good thing is that the molten salts are just fertilizer, and either they don't degrade, and either you can reuse them in another molten salt storage system, or you can just dispose of them by using them as fertilizers. Next slide. Next slide. Yeah. So here we made a first estimate on the investment cost, and of course the investment cost you have there, the blue in the low is the molten salt steam generator. That is constant cost independent on the length of the capacity of the storage. Then you have the storage system, and the storage cost increase with the discharge duration. And you have the electrical salt heaters, which also increase with the storage capacity, since you want to charge the system in the same length of day with, let's say, a small storage capacity or with high storage capacity. So what you find here is that if you equip a 250 megawatt coal plant with a 5-hour storage, so that would give you 5 hours of 250 megawatt, you have approximately an investment of some 250 million. And if you increase the storage capacity that to some 14 hours, then here your costs go to close to some 450 million in terms of dollars, in terms of capex. Next slide. And in terms of levelized electricity cost, this would result in some in a range of between 90 USD per megawatt hour electric and 120 megawatt hours electric, or no, sorry, 110 megawatt hour dollars per megawatt hour electric. And if you look what are the components, of course, the largest component is the electricity, the cost of the electricity you need to charge the system. Here we have assumed that you can buy this in Chile for $20 the megawatt hour in the excess times in order to charge your storage system. Then here, these is basically the capex, which is the financing, and this would be the opex of the plant. So let's say first estimate, sums is you would have some cost of some $90 per megawatt hour. Next slide. Now here, as Carlos already indicated, the addition of these molten salt storage to the coal plants would increase the firm capacity of the system. And here you see that for the years, especially after 2030, this would add stability. That is exactly the same message for Carlos. And this corresponds also when we did the Andasol 1 plant, and we came there in Spain here to a substation that had been already overbooked by wind plants, and at that time that was 2006. When we added a concentrated solar plant with 6 hours of molten salt storage, the short circuit capacity was increased, and that allowed to increase more wind plants than without this plant with the molten salt storage system. So in this respect, the conversion of coal plants into thermal storage plants will increase, as Carlos already showed, the ability to add more variable power and make this variable power dispatchable. Next slide, please. Yeah, press next slide. Chile had been selected as the example for this first study. Basically, we believe it's an let's say ideal place to start doing it. First of all, because there most of the coal is imported, and I mean, these coal plants, they were auctioned in 2007, 2008, and when they were auctioned, their PPAs were above the $100 per megawatt hour, which today may seem high to you, but that was the PPA cost of coal plants in Chile that had been auctioned at that time. So secondly, this retrofit of the coal plants decarbonizes the Chilean power part while still granting 100% secure dispatchability. And also the fossil backup firing option can be maintained. It reduces the curtailment in the north of Chile, and it will conserve jobs, and so make a fair and sustainable transition from fossil to renewable. Also in Chile, they are currently finalizing the CSP plant with the same molten salt storage system, and so there exists the technical know-how and the technical capacity to implement such a system. Next slide. Next. And what I myself found most impressive is, let's say, that Chile doesn't only have the best solar resource in the world, but in this place where there is the solar resource, that is the Atacama Desert, that is where, let's say, today's storage systems are mined. On the one hand side, the lithium that is also, let's say, distilled by evaporating salt mixtures from the Atacama Desert. And a byproduct from this mining is the nitrates, which are required for the solar molten salt storage in the same place, and they are a byproduct of the lithium. So in Chile, we get the sun and we get the basic materials for both the lithium and the molten salt storage. And all this mining is done with solar energy. So that is basically, in short, my conclusion. And again, I think this is a great opportunity to give coal plants a second life and to expand the proven maturity of concentrating solar power storage beyond concentrating solar power to the utilization with PV and with wind. Thank you very much.
Great, thank you very much, Michael. I've seen questions flooding in as you've been speaking, questions about how the technology works, and perhaps more so how the economics of the technology works, and why choices are being made to go with this technology rather than whatever alternatives there might be. So please keep the questions coming. Let me turn now to Abhishek Bhaskar from the Climate Investment Funds, which is managed by the World Bank. Abhi, please go ahead.
Thank you, Jonathan. Let me get a quick check of if the slides are working and if you can hear me.
Both.
Perfect. Thank you again, Jonathan, and thank you, ATA Insights, for having me here today. Hope everyone is doing well amidst the ongoing disruptions. My name is Abhishek Bhaskar. I work at the Climate Investment Funds, like Jonathan mentioned, where, among other things, we are putting together a new program on accelerating coal transition in developing countries. So let me give you a quick overview, if the slide moves now. Yeah. Let me offer a quick overview of the Climate Investment Funds, which is housed within the World Bank. The bank not only acts as a trustee, but also as one of the implementing partners alongside the Asian Development Bank, African Development Bank, EBRD, Inter-American Development Bank, and IFC. We are one of the world's oldest and largest donor-funded multi-MDB co-financing platforms, offering concessional finance to support clean energy, resilience, and forestry activities. Concessional finance, for those who may not know, mean low interest rates or long tenors that can have a favorable impact on the economics of a project by lowering either the overall cost of financing or altering the risk profile of the underlying interventions. We have funding of over $8 billion, supporting 300 plus projects in low and middle income countries. And these funds have mobilized $60 plus billion in additional co-financing from a range of sources, private sector, MDBs, bilaterals, among others. One of the key features of our business model is the flexibility that it offers. And this is based on a dynamic partnership between the contributor countries or donor countries, between the recipient countries, our implementing partners, and so on. What this flexibility helps us with is to respond very quickly to the demand and needs on the ground, such as coal transition. So this is just shows what our projects are contributing to, which is a number of sustainable development goals on the ground. So why coal transition? For us, the rationale for a dedicated program to accelerate coal transition was quite compelling. It carries significant environmental, climate, and public health costs. It is not only the largest source of global temperature increase, but also contributes to over 4 million deaths annually due to respiratory diseases caused by air pollution. And this fact was exacerbated recently during the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic. Second, renewable energy has, as we all know, been eroding the commercial viability of a number of plants for a few years now. The share of uncompetitive coal plants is expected to rise from what is around over a third today to over 2/3 very shortly over the next 2 decades. And replacing these uncompetitive coal plants with clean energy can not only save over $85 billion to customers annually, but also bring in the associated climate, health, and environmental benefits with it. Finally, it is, as you know, over the past decade, jobs in coal industry have been on a decline. This is data from the US, but the trend is similar elsewhere too. It is widely recognized that investments in clean energy or through clean energy transitions are not only going to create jobs and kickstart economies, but also offer new avenues for development and new opportunities to earn cash. So in short, our rationale for a dedicated program was quite simply based on the fact that one, coal is not cheap, coal is not economical, and coal is not an industry for the future, given the job opportunities that are going to exist in the clean energy economy. Still, the coal phase-out process is slow, given the large stock of existing assets, as well as the economic interdependencies between the communities and these plants in coal-dominated regions. There remain considerable socioeconomic and political challenges that have discouraged much progress on this issue so far. And so it is with this recognition and sort of appreciation that we have been working on the ACT, or the Accelerating Coal Transition Program. The program offers a holistic financial toolkit to address and tackle three key components or issues with respect to a transition away from coal. And we have clubbed them into three categories of governance, people, and infrastructure. And let me quickly go through these briefly, each of these components and the rationale behind picking those. Starting with governance. It is crucial to set country-level ambitions by designing coal transition strategies, aligning those with relevant policies, and dedicating a defined budget to support those activities. There's also a need on the ground to make sure that the institution and the local and regional institutions are ready to implement some of the economic development or socioeconomic regeneration programs that must accompany these transition strategies. Second, it's about the people, those who are most affected by the transition in coal-dominated regions. I talked about the strong interdependencies between local communities and coal-based assets in such regions. These are people who have spent most of their lives on related activities, be it the transporters moving coal, suppliers of goods and services, or even the local businesses catering to the employees and their families in the region. So a transition plan must include strategies to prepare this group of affected communities and people for jobs of the future, find a way to offer temporary income support, and also create alternative economic opportunities for the future. It's sort of preparing them for jobs of the future. And third, an important part, and this is relevant to the discussion today, which is related to infrastructure, which are a key piece of the puzzle. The value of stranded assets is quite significant, around $250+ billion by some estimates. So if we can repurpose this existing infrastructure using technology, most of them, based on what Michael and others were saying, are based on proven technologies. If we can use those to repurpose such sites, be it RE plus storage or for other industrial development projects like using green buildings and so forth, then these activities can not only result in cost savings and help the economics of the new projects or activities to be implemented there, but also create short and long-term employment opportunities for the local community. So that's very, very important, an integrated approach, a holistic approach that addresses and tackles these three core issues. Finally, why act, or why act now? Coal, we know that must be reduced by a significant share. Some estimate it as around 80% over the next decade if we are to meet the 1.5 degree temperature goal. Even though the pandemic, COVID-19, has rendered a number of plants uneconomical due to low demand and so on, the rate of decarbonization, or the rate of decommissioning of these plants is not fast enough to keep us on track for the pathway. The graphic shows how far off we are on meeting that 2 degree goal. So we cannot wait for the market forces to play out, and we must have a dedicated program to accelerate this transition. But we must accelerate by recognizing and appreciating the complex nature of the problem. We think that any solution must have two key ingredients. One is a holistic approach to tackling the key issues, and we talked about those three pillars that we are aiming to support through this program. And two, we must have a strategically aligned and multilateral partnership to deliver on the ground. Multilateral development banks, MDBs, are key implementing partners, and they have a critical role to play on the ground. They have long-term country engagement strategies, expertise, and experience mobilizing finance in client countries. On the other hand, we at the Climate Investment Funds have over a decade-long experience as a multi-MDB co-financing platform, and has been used successfully to support proof of concept, innovation, risk mitigation, and socioeconomic solutions over the past decade. For example, and my colleague Fernando is going to talk about it shortly, we have supported the innovative carbon pricing model-based decommissioning project in Chile with the private sector. So together, this SIF, a concessional effort from climate investment funds and MDBs, is very well placed to deliver on this important agenda. Finally, the developed world has recognized the importance of coal transition, and they have followed it up by allocating large volumes of funding and resources towards key activities under this agenda or under this ambition. We have the case of European Union, we have the case of Germany, where they did that by allocating significant resources to tackle them. But there's no such initiative that supports similar ambitions of the developing world. A holistic platform like ACT that offers resources at scale will be particularly crucial today as countries are facing growing pressures on their public finance and looking to build back better. Under the program, we expect to be able to model or pilot different models that can offer important lessons in terms of possible approaches and help accelerate the rate and eventually the scale of energy transition. So let me stop here, and thank you once again, Jonathan and ATA, for having me over. Thanks.
Okay, great. Thank you very much, Abby, for describing to us the Accelerating Coal Transition Financing Program, which will offer very concessional, very subsidized financing to these type of projects in developing countries, including, in principle, the technologies that we've been talking about. Let me pass now to Fernando. I believe we are going to be able to extend this webinar by 10 or 15 minutes. I think ATA will put some information in the chat box about that, because we're getting so many questions coming in. There's obviously a huge amount of interest. Fernando, please go ahead.
Yes, can you hear me? And do you see my screen?
Yes, both.
Okay, hello everybody. Thank you, Jonathan. And thank you, ATA, for inviting me this webinar, very interesting. I'm going to talk about, as Abhishek was commenting, a transaction where we already structure and close in Chile for the acceleration of the coal phase out. This is a project that we just closed with ENGIE, one of the generation companies operating in Chile, in which basically we are providing our climate financing in order to replace coal power plants that are being phased out in an anticipated fashion. So what we call basically invest to reverse is the structure that we are applying here in this case. We are providing an 100, I'm sorry. We're providing a $125 million financing package between ourselves, IDB Invest. I'm sorry, I didn't introduce myself. We have been a bit pressed by the time. I am a principal investment officer in IDB Invest. We are the private sector arm of the IDB group, covering the whole Latin American and the Caribbean region. We have climate change as a key pillar in our strategy, and in that strategy, as I was saying, invest to reverse is part of the activities that we are developing all across the region. So in this case, we are providing a financing package to ENGIE to develop a program that it consists in 2 activities. So, but the overall objective is to help the company to accelerate their decarbonization strategy in the Chilean market. So this package consists of a loan from IDB Invest, $74 million, a co-lender of a fund that we co-manage, the China fund, from $36 million, plus blended finance component from the climate investment fund that Abhishek was referring to of $15 million. And as I said, this transaction consists of 2 activities. The first one is to accelerate the phase out of a coal power plant, and we will monetize the actual reductions or avoidance of greenhouse gases by basically this anticipated retirement of 2 power plants. But in order to avoid what is called a leakage problem, in which the retirement of coal will lead to the increase of generation of other sources, we're ensuring that the retirement is fully replaced with renewable energy. So on a one-to-one basis, we're making sure that all coal-based generation that was planned to be injected to the grid is being fully replaced by wind farm generation on a one-to-one basis at energy level, so gigawatt hour by gigawatt hour. So how does this work? Basically, we monitor two activities. One is the commitment and the actual retirement of 2 coal-based power plants. So this is activity 2A. We provide a financing to this program, and then the proceeds of this financing has to be utilized in the investments, in the CapEx investment of this wind farm project plants. Then the carbon, the CO2 elements, goes through a monitoring and verification of the actual reduction of CO2. That is basically the combination of the retirement plus the actual generation of the wind farm power plants. And through the climate investment funds, we monetize that greenhouse gas reductions. Is actually a carbon price that we apply to the financing of this project in the form of a reduction in the interest rate. But in reality, what we're doing is putting a floor price on the carbon reductions, which are applied to the new project. Without the decommissioning of the coal power plant, we wouldn't be allowed to monetize carbon, and without investment in the wind farm, we wouldn't be allowed to fully apply the displaced energy by renewable energy. So that is why we define the activity of decarbonization of the combination of these two, decommissioning and investment. So I will stop here. Our aim is to replicate this structure not only in Chile but all across the region. At this time, we're using concessional financing for this type of structures in the absence of the carbon market. The overall purpose of this methodology and instrument is to be a pre-market transaction in which we will create the carbon credit that will be tradable in a future carbon market, which we hope with the reinvigorating process of the Paris Accord, we will have a carbon market as a significant or important element of the mitigation strategy going forward and in the next few years. So I'm stopped here and open the floor for Jonathan and the follow-up questions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Fernando. I see we're able to extend this webinar by 15 minutes because there's so much interest, there's so many participants, so many questions have come in. Let me start with a question to Abhishek, which is about the Accelerating Coal Transition program that you explained to us and the concessional financing it offers to developing countries for the transition away from coal. Michael Geier has explained a particular technological approach. My question is whether in principle, and obviously it's in principle because any given project would need to be carefully analyzed and appraised, but in principle, whether this type of conversion of a coal power plant would be something that the climate investment funds could look at in various developing countries that ask for it, or private investors in developing countries that ask for it. And maybe, Abby, after you've had the chance to answer that, I'll ask Fernando to also give an answer to that question from the point of view of the Inter-American Development Bank, whether you would, in principle, use the Accelerating Coal Transition program from the Climate Investment Funds to finance this kind of conversion in the countries in which you operate. But Abby, why don't you go ahead and respond to that?
Thank you, Jonathan. Let me take a shot at that. As you know, concessional financing from CIF has been used in a variety of contexts, supporting innovative technologies and solutions over the years. In the context of LAC, we have supported the development of the geothermal industry over the past decade through innovative instruments such as contingent grants and so forth. So like you said, a lot of it depends on the project specific considerations, the financing, the technology, and etc. But in principle, the idea of using concessional finance from CIF to support innovative solution that not only alters, say, the financing profile or the cost of financing, but also the risk profile of intervention has been tested and been used for the past decade. So if you consider that as a guiding principle, then obviously, we will consider a number of solutions that may not be tested and are innovative in that respect, as long as it meets the considerations and criteria of the program. But we have a track record of demonstrating at scale some of these technologies, be it geothermal, like I mentioned in LAC, or the new CSP plant in MENA. And we have many such examples, the rooftop solar in India, and I can go on. But that's the point, that using this source of concessional financing to support innovation has been key to our business model over the years.
Okay, that's wonderful. Thank you very much. Fernando, do you want to add something in the context of the IADB and the CIF?
Yeah, of course. This type of intervention will fall in the same principle of reducing carbon and putting a price on carbon in order to replace, let's say, coal-based generation by renewable energy. So the designs or the idea for the Carnot battery being fed through renewable energy obviously will have an impact on accelerating coal, and we can count that displacement as basically a tradable or a value carbon credit in somehow, which in turn could be valued in the same principle, same way we did on this decommissioning of a coal power plant. So the short answer is yes. But not only for this type of solution, but anything that basically replace coal by clean energy in general.
Okay, great. Those are very encouraging answers. Let me now turn to Michael. There's some questions that have come in. There's a whole group of questions. Some of them are about which countries are studying or planning to study the use of the kind of technology you were talking about, because you talked about it with the example of Chile, but as you said, this could be used in principle in many countries that consume coal for power generation. So people are asking which other countries are either studying this, planning to study it, or perhaps just in your view, it would be a good idea for them to study that. So maybe you want to share.
Yeah, I mean, currently the two countries that are studying it is Chile and is Germany. Germany, the German Ministry for Economy has, and also the state of North Rhine-Westphalia within the German coal exit program. First of all, have put it into their government program to explore the possibility to convert coal plants into storage plants. So that is German government program. And they have put, let's say, several millions into studying it, and also then, for example, to demonstrate it as a real lab. So that's where currently the studies are going on. I know that now also the United States, they have given grants to some projects to study the conversion of coal plants in the United States. So this is the third country that I'm aware that just has dedicated funding to study it from the government. Then I believe that any country that, let's say, has a coal exit program and is considering, let's say, a reutilization of the assets of a coal plant is let's say, a good potential country to study. As you see, the big difference between Chile and Germany is it isn't only applicable to Sunbelt countries, which have absolute great sunshine and good PV. Germany is a country that almost has no sunshine, and there one would look into, let's say, firming more the wind power. But I would guess that next countries who have similar good sunshine and also huge coal plants, South Africa, or in Europe, there may be Greece, or there may be also countries in North Africa who now have coal plants and who are considering, let's say, the transition to renewables. So I think basically any country that is planning the transition for coal plants would be eligible. And currently the DLR is conducting a coal atlas that is to analyze all coal plants on the world, let's say, in the first study, and look what potential they have, in what way they could be converted. So that would be, let's say, a first rough guide to map worldwide the potential of repurposing coal plants with such Carnot batteries.
Yeah, okay. No, that's very interesting. It's very interesting to hear about that coal power atlas that's being prepared, because I think my impression is there are many countries who, once they become aware of the potential of this technology, would find it quite an interesting solution to their coal transition.
Absolutely.
Can I just add a question? We have several questions along the lines of why consider this type of technology instead of doing PV plus electrochemical batteries, or wind power plus electrochemical batteries? What are really the advantages, whether it's technical or economic,
well, I think
using the molten salts rather than electrochemical batteries?
Well, actually, let's say when we first looked into it, the condition was that the operators of the coal plant wanted to have, let's say, a commercially mature and financeable technology. And the electrochemical batteries so far have not been, let's say, financed nor been long time in use at several hundred megawatts with many hours. So now come the first one online, which have 100 megawatts 4 hours. But as I told you, the molten salt storage is commercially mature for storage that is, many hundred megawatts and many hours, with the largest system now being just commercially financed. That is the 700 megawatts in Dubai with 12 hours of storage. There is now the Chile one, the Cerro Dominador, that is commercially financed. So this technology is mature, it is bankable, it is project finable, it's utility scale, and it can be combined with the existing equipment, the steam cycles of the coal plants. And therefore, let's say, we looked at it as an interesting option. And of course, no storage technology alone will solve it all, and we will need all. But this was, let's say, the most mature and the viable one, which would provide what the system needs, that is rotating inertia, reactive power, and also, let's say, give a continued life to the staff at the existing coal plants. That was the third aspect.
Yeah, okay, thank you. I mean, I think that's a very helpful answer. And basically, you're saying that this technology, there's nothing new in it. The combination of technology,
the combination is new,
is
yes.
a bit new, but the components are not new. They're proven, mature.
No, exactly.
So, let me quickly ask the other panelists whether anybody wants to make some very last comments in the minute or so that we now have left. Does anybody have any remarks they'd like to make in reaction to what was said, the questions that came in, the presentations people made, and so on? Would anybody like to say something? Rainer, please go ahead.
I might underline what Michael said. We chose this technology because it's more cost effective than the battery, the electrical battery, and also gives an advantage to the system stability, the inertia, and also the system security, the short circuit security. This is very important in a power system like Chile, which is an island system. And so you have the power plants are located in very specific points of the power grid, and they are very essential, yes, regarding the system security. And regarding the other countries, I think what we are doing here is a pilot. I think it's, and I'm very, very sure that if we'll be able to realize the first project here, that we will have a lot of followers. I have a lot of inquiries from countries like Ukraine, like Indonesia, like Morocco or South Africa. However, I think you have to show it. You have to have the first plant working. It's very important, and I think we are in a good way to realize one pilot here in Chile. I hope we can do it within the next couple of months and 2 years, something like this. Thank you.
One addition, and that is what Rainer said, that the security, like was demonstrated in the CSP plants, you can have a fossil backup firing. That means for the last 2%, yeah, when you have the 3 days, no sunshine, no wind, you can still guarantee 100% availability with your backup gas burner or hydrogen burner or whatever. That allows you to guarantee the 100% availability.
Yeah, okay, great, thank you. I think what we're going to see, as Michael and Rainer, you were both saying, is that a lot of people around the world in coal producing or coal consuming countries are going to follow the development of this technological solution, because it could be very cost effective because it reuses existing assets. It could be very effective in saving jobs, which is terribly important everywhere, and even more important in the global recovery from the current global economic crisis. It's emissions free from a CO2 point of view. It has so many advantages. People are going to follow it, but as you say, once you have some demonstration plants being built or in operation, it's going to be even more persuasive than the studies that are being done. I mean, people like to, see things, feel them, touch them, see them working, know whether there are some problems on the way, or they can be easily solved, and so on. So let me conclude here, because I think we've actually gone over time on our extension of time. Let's thank our panelists very, very much. Michael, Juan Carlos, Rainer, Abhishek, Fernando, for some very insightful, very informative remarks and presentations. I think the presentations are available to everybody. I think there's an explanation in the chat box about how you access the presentations, because I'm sure a lot of people will want, in their own time, to reflect on some of the detail in the presentation. So let me thank our panelists, thank our participants very much for an extremely interesting webinar. Thank you.